Hello friends, welcome back. I am proud to report that we have decent DPS. After yesterday, we went all the way into defense, got it to a level that honestly I'm pretty happy with. And then we spent last night on stream really working through those offenses, trying all sorts of different things and figuring out exactly how we want to scale this. And then this morning, Zeus and I worked through high tier red maps, really hard rolled. And we had a great time, and Zeus is done playing PoE for the day, so he wants to leave the room. Isn't that right? We successfully took down both of the mini bosses yesterday, and now we're working towards the end game pinnacle bosses. As you can tell from the thumbnail and the title, we are now over 1 million DPS, over 1.1 million to be exact. And for only a few exalts invested, I'm really happy with how this is performing. I have great confidence that we can get to a few million DPS without going very crazy on the investment. And I'm really excited to see where we take this. So let's quickly go over where we are. So same as yesterday, let's go into a map to show it off right away. And I want to talk over some mechanics that people have been asking about in the comments. So we're going to do a rolled up 72% quant T14 map that also has a Shaper, Ambush, and Harbinger Scarab. In addition to that, to really spice it up, I'm going to throw in the 12 more Rogue Exiles, and you're going to see why. All right, so quick little mechanical thing to update y'all is I am now using Sigil of Power and Frost Shield. Now, we don't want to be pressing these buttons all the time, but I added them to give both more offense and defense when we're fighting scarier monsters. We're able to get away with this because I grabbed an elemental weakness on hit implicit synthesized ring for about 40 chaos last night. So definitely keep a lookout for deals there. This is really nice for saving us a gem socket and getting really nice quality of life for that auto curse. So the only thing that we're really doing is we're casting our arc. We are manually Assassin's marking still. Unfortunately, the mark on hit support gem that they added is only for attacks. No love from GGG for us, but that's good enough. We only really care about that on scary monsters. Regular monsters, not a big deal. The one thing that we're kind of doing for some bonus all the time is you do want to cast Orb of Storms basically every pack, every other pack, just to get some extra quality of life, and it really juices our damage. In fact, I actually transitioned Orb of Storms to be more utility-based, so I now have it linked to Ice Bite support and Power Charge on crit support, which means that Orb of Storms is really our Power Charge and Frenzy Charge generator. So let's show the gameplay a little bit. This map is going to be a little scary, but I wanted to show it off by putting as much juice on it as possible regarding the Rogue Exiles. I took all of the Rogue Exiles and Tormented Spirits nodes on the Atlas passive tree, and you'll see that they all have really tons of drops. So one annoying thing that you may have noticed if you're playing it is Vol Molten Shell is currently bugged. We would normally like to rely on that for our defenses, but unfortunately it immediately pops after taking a single hit, and that is really bad for us being able to rely on that as a defensive layer. So as you can see, we can clear through the map in a clean fashion. Do a little essence here. Oh, the essence nodes from the Atlas tree are really nice. I did take all of the essence nodes that I could. Really good drops there. Now, farming and selling essences, probably going to be not as good return on investment as normally, at least per essence, but we're going to get so many that I still think it's probably going to be really good for just getting good funds. So anyway, yeah, we got all these Rogue Exiles everywhere. I did drop a lot of the defenses that we talked about yesterday just to push my offenses further. But as you can see, this is a tier 14 map, and it's pretty fine. That's Aura right there. She is one of the scariest Rogue Exiles. Feels pretty good. I'm really happy with where we're at right now offensively, and I see a path into a pretty good place. There we go, and not too bad for a tier 14 boss. Oh, one thing that I did want to address, I've had a lot of questions about this in the past day, is how does Trinity work? It's definitely a little bit funky because the name Trinity, you assume that you need to do all three elements, but the way that it works is the element that you do the most damage of will fill up the other two bars. So if you do mostly lightning damage, you will fill up the cold and fire bars. And if that alternates with the cold damage that you're doing, it will take the cold damage as the most damage that you're doing and will bring up the lightning and fire bars. So you don't try to do lightning damage to fill up the lightning bar. You deal lightning damage to fill up the cold and fire bars. So as long as the max of the cold is higher than the minimum of the lightning, and then when you do more cold damage than lightning damage due to that variance, the lightning bar will fill up as well. And I can demonstrate that very easily. So if I remove my Call of the Brotherhood, I am doing 100% lightning damage now. that means that the cold and fire bars will always be full, but the lightning bar will not move. So if we take a look, the fire and cold are now filled up. And then if I put on the Call of the Brotherhood, we'll see that I can do max of 4,000 cold damage and min of 1,000 lightning damage. So sometimes I will be doing less lightning damage than cold damage. So if I just attack a couple packs of monsters. So that was all lightning damage. And then we had more cold damage than lightning damage. You see that triangle in the middle, and then Trinity is activated. So let's take a look at the gem changes that I made. In my weapon, I am now self-casting Assassin's Mark. Determination is still there. And then I am also now using Frost Shield. What Frost Shield will do is drain your energy shield for a bit, and it will gain stages. It has up to 4 stages, and for each stage, it will get a certain amount of life that it can take hits and reduce the damage that you take, which is really nice defensively, but it will also give you base spell crit chance as well, which is obviously really good for us to just get up that crit chance. So as you can see, when I cast Frost Shield, it will drain my energy shield, and then you actually see my ES has like that little chilly effect on it, and that means that I am taking less damage from hits. If the monster is inside the Frost Shield, it's 60% less, and if it's outside the shield, it's 20% less. And then if you look at my spell critical strike chance at 66.19, cast this, goes up to 76.62. That is a gigantic boost. With my Diamond Flask, 90.92, just like this, and we don't even have close to endgame gear. And that's just very comfortable for being a crit-based build now. The other utility that I'm using is now Sigil of Power. The way that that works is it can gain up to 4 stages based on the mana that you spend while you're standing in it. Enemies in the area will deal 18% less damage when it's at maximum stages. So both of these also have really nice defensive characteristics. So if you look at my damage here, it tops out at 10,500. When I cast this, the more that I cast, the more that I spend mana. You can see that go up and gain stages. And it's just another way that we can boost that damage that we're getting, which is especially nice because of the way that Arc now scales, getting more damage effectiveness. So we get more benefit from that than we used to last patch. Another really cool thing that I'm doing now is I'm using an Archdemon Crown. What that says is socketed skills apply fire, cold, and lightning exposure on hit. That allows us to remove the Hydrosphere. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't have to worry about it eating charges of our arc or anything, or the auto-targeting kind of targeting it, kind of being annoying. And what I did is I put Orb of Storms in here, and as I said earlier, I have that now linked to Ice Bite support and Power Charge on crit support. That gives me my power and frenzy charges, which more damage, more speed, all that, really, really nice. Along with that is Energy Leech support, as before. Gives it a little bit of damage, but also a defensive layer by leeching some of that energy shield. So that's the other reason why we really want to be dropping Orb of Storms, is when it hits, applies those exposures, and that's a really nice boost to our damage. So between the Archdemon Crown Orb of Storms, and now, as I said before, the Elemental Weakness on Hit Ring, that removes 2 of the buttons that we were using before. So what I do there is I ask myself, how do I put more things into those gem sockets to give myself even more utility, more offense, more defense? In the shield, we just still have Arcane Surge with Flame Dash. In the gloves, we have Molten Shell, cast when damage taken, Stone Golem, Ice Golem, Lightning Golem, Chaos Golem. We're still using Clarity and a Defiance Banner. In the body armor, we have Arc with Inspiration. We really need that Inspiration because the mana does get a little dicey. Increased critical strike support. Since we are fully crit based now, no longer using Elemental Overload, I want to get that critical strike chance as close to 100% as possible. Eventually, with maybe a good Watcher's Eye, we could drop this. But right now, this is just really good to smooth out that damage and make sure we're always getting those critical strikes. And then as before, Trinity. And then I swapped out faster casting with Spell Echo. So Spell Echo has 2 benefits. First of all, we cast twice every single time that we cast. The big thing there is it's basically a way you can think about saving mana. For the number of times that you're casting, you can kind of think of it as like 1.5 casts per cast. So it's much more comfortable with the mana expenditure. The other benefit is it's just 55% more cast speed. That's just a great way to get a lot of arcs out there. Now, the downside with Spell Echo, and the reason why I wasn't using it before, is when you have lower cast speed, it's actually really uncomfortable, right? You get kind of locked into this double cast every time you're casting, and until you get really, really high cast speed, say you start casting, and then a monster goes for an attack, and you want to Flame Dash away, but you can be locked in this animation, and until you get really, really fast cast speed, that can absolutely get you killed. I'm now past that inflection point now with how fast my cast speed is, especially with the juiced Lightning Golem, that I feel comfortable switching to Spell Echo. And that's all the gems that I'm using right now. A lot of people have been asking about Herald of Ice. I would love to get Herald of Ice back in here. When I get an Enlightened gem, that's absolutely on the table. The thing is, Herald of Ice actually gives you very, very little damage. It will grant us 38 to 56 cold damage to spells, which is nice, but it's really not that much, right? If you compare that with some lines that you can get on some jewels, it's really not giving you that much benefit for the amount of mana that you're expending. Really, the key with Herald of Ice is it smooths out the clear really well. If you've used it, a lot of people are still using it in their builds just because it feels so nice. It is amazing for getting those extra shatters, clearing the screen in a much cleaner way. It does very, very little for a single target, and I'm clearing enough that I feel comfortable not using it. Later on, I absolutely want to get into the build, get those really juicy shatters, maybe even use Blast Freeze and get some propagation of shatters, explode the whole screen. Feels really, really nice. But Heralds in general, unless you really juice them, actually don't grant that much damage in your builds. In terms of the passive tree, we're really just looking at a couple very, very small modifications. The most notable one, much to my chagrin, is I did drop Divine Shield. I figured I could use those points and kind of tune this tree into a little bit more offense, a little bit more reliable, smooth play, instead of this like kind of nice utility thing. Later on, like if I were level 100, I would definitely want to grab Sanctum of Thought and Devotion, and then just grab Divine Shield with an extra point there. But I really can't justify that expenditure at this juncture. Since we're still in the 80s, I am currently 87. We just got to be as efficient as possible with our points. So is Divine Shield keeping me alive, or is it just letting me be a little bit lazier as I'm running through a map? And I don't think it was saving me from dying. Almost everything will just come in and kill you in, a third of a second or less. And so getting some of that life back over 4 seconds, especially if it's only based on hits, I'm just not going to value that versus, hey, how much armor can I get? How much life can I get to just mitigate that one big one shot, right? So I dropped Divine Shield. I grabbed a jewel socket here. I smoothed out this little corner here. This isn't really necessary, so I just dropped this little guy. I do have max crit when I have my Frost Shield going, so I was able to drop that, and we're really trying to stretch these points as far as possible. Grabbed Assassination for that more crit multi, and then I switched Whispers of Doom to also grab the Curse effect to really make them as strong as possible. That's it for the passive tree. I think I only got 3 or 4 levels since the last video. We kind of did some limit testing. I think I've died... 84 times now. I've been pushing it as far as possible. I basically dropped all of my defense from the video yesterday, and then we started working the offense in and trying to figure out what the right balance was. That's how I like to overcorrect in one direction and then overcorrect the other direction. Really try the limits of all those values, and then we'll figure out the right balance in the middle. Also, as you can see, I dropped Bastion of Elements, and I did my Uber Lab, so I now have Heart of Destruction. Heart of Destruction is really nice. That's 30% more damage. But if you have a little bit of risk aversion to the deaths, I would strongly recommend taking Bastion of Elements. It is 30% less damage, but how much damage does a dead Elementalist do? My plan for the next day or two is to get about 5 more levels, probably just drop Breath of Lightning, get a Cluster Jewel. Once we get into the Cluster Jewel, we'll have other power charge generation, and we'll be able to do things like get Snowstorm and get lightning, extra lightning as cold damage, and that will really push us to the next level damage-wise. In terms of the gear, I already talked about the Archdemon Crown. I think this was like 10 Chaos, and I threw it into some Reforged Lives in Harvest. Got some really nice stuff, and that's what we're using. I just bought this a few minutes ago. I think I got it for about 15, 20 Chaos. Just has some spell damage, spell crit, some mana regen, stuff like that. Just a nice, well-rounded shield. As we saw in the prototype, I would love to use a Rune Dagger and just have something so we could Whirling Blades around, get that mobility. It's really enticing. But we're at the point now, we're still just a little baby. We just got to take what we can get and just try to push our damage so we can kill the monsters, farm that currency, and then we can go to a really nice crafted Rune Dagger a little bit further down the road. So all I'm going for here is flat lightning damage to spells, all lightning spell skill gems, spell damage, critical strike chance, stuff like that. This is not a very special wand. All I did in the search here is one-handed weapon, all lightning spell skill gems, some spell damage, and flat lightning to spells. I will put the search in the description below if you want to do it as well. The amulet, this actually dropped in Heist for me, has fractured tier 2 mana regen rate. Figured why not? I'm a little uncomfortable with my mana. I was using a mana flask before. I just hit this with 1 or 2 crit essences. I also got crit multi with the crit chance, crafted on some life, and that's what I'm using. I'm anointing Sentinel right now just because I need that resistance. My ideal anoint would either probably be Throat Seeker or Stormweaver. Both of these are great for our damage, and they have a couple travel points, so that can save us a lot for the damage value. So speaking of the mana, I have 36% here and 51% here. That combined with Clarity and with Arcane Surge I actually generate so much mana, I don't need a mana flask or anything. I know a lot of folks have been asking about that. I really think this is kind of an undervalued stat that you can work into your gear a little bit there and absolutely boost that mana regen to something comfortable. So if you take a look, I am currently regenerating 140 mana per second. If I have Arcane Surge, that goes up to 161. So I'll just move myself over here so you can see the mana. And yeah, I'm just regenerating so much mana, it's not a problem whatsoever. This body armor is pretty great. 6-link Hunter body armor that is also armor and energy shield based. So what I did is I took this, I threw it into Reforged Caster in Harvest. Unfortunately, because of the item level, I can't get higher than T2 spell crit chance, and I can't get +1 curse. That was a mistake that I made. So yeah, you actually need item level 84 for tier 1 spell crit chance, and you need item level 82 for +1 curse. I really wish I had the +1 curse at least, because that would save me 4 more passives on my skill tree. With that said, I don't really regret it. There isn't that much else on the market right now at this early on in the league. This gives me just enough spell crit chance, and it has nice life and chaos res, which I really value as well. Like I said, with this ring, cost about 40 chaos. Definitely look out for a deal there. And then I think I hit it with like 1 or 2 essences, said whatever, it's not very good, and I and I just crafted some life. This can absolutely be improved. For the gloves, I was in a map, some spiked gloves dropped. I had some of the leftover Eldritch currency, threw it out there. Those implicits aren't good at all. I don't even know what you can get on gloves right now. I have to look that up. But I did hit tier 1 life there with an essence, as well as some strength and cold res, which is exactly what I was looking for. In this slot, I really want to get as much armor as possible. And in fact, I don't love where my armor is right now. 10.9k without my flask up is on the low end. I want to get that to at least 15k. So that's like one of the projects in the back of my head. Speaking of which, I found a Stygian Vise just by doing an Abyssal Depths. Threw it into some Reforged Chaoses. Hit this, gives me some nice armor, some nice life. Crafted on some mana and life regen, and that's all we're using right now. The very big reason that I strongly value Stygian Vise is because then you can have a nice jewel in here as well. This gives me some more spell damage, some more life, and some more res. I bought this for like 5 chaos. These are the same boots from yesterday? Almost. This is actually really, really fun. So you can see this is the Searing Exarch implicit modifier, lesser. Drops scorched ground while moving, lasting 2 seconds. Enemies on the scorched ground are scorched. They have -10 to elemental resistances. So you can see when I'm walking around, I'm leaving scorched ground. So when a monster is standing on that, they actually have -10 elemental res. So that's a nice little boost to the damage. If we walk past some monsters and we attack back, that's just 10% res off the top right there. That's an example of something really, really cool that we can put into this build that we didn't know before the patch came out. And these are the type of things that just made me really excited to discover fun new stuff to try to craft on our gear. And what gives me confidence that we're going to have really nice damage as soon as we figure out everything that kind of works together. If we take a quick little look here, you can see that the number on the thumbnail is correct. Now, this is the ideal circumstances when everything is going, but it's actually not too much of a stretch. So you can see I have it set to boss DPS. I have my resonance set up. This is with the frost and sigil fully charged up, but it's actually not that hard to do. This is with the enemy on the scorched ground. They are chilled and shocked, and I have convergence. I also have my power and frenzy charges, which while we're mapping is always up. Now we won't have our frenzy charges in a single target situation, but for general mapping, this is what the DPS looks like. So yeah, really, really exciting. We are over that 1 million DPS threshold where all red maps now start to feel pretty comfortable. I do have to go back and get a little bit of that defense back. I did sacrifice more than I wanted, but most of that will come by just getting a couple levels on our character. I know there was a little bit of criticism after the last video where a couple of folks commented and said, hey, your build does no DPS, but that was defense day and today was offense day. So hopefully this showed you that there is a path to getting good offense and defense on this character. We just have to spend some time with it and really figure out the right pieces that fit together. As I tried to from the beginning when I wanted to set those expectations, this isn't a character where we'll just spend 1 exalt and everything just works. I think I'm at about maybe 5 exalts invested and I'm very comfortable in red maps. And I'm really, really happy with that. If you're following along, I hope that this helps you take it to the next level. I would love for you to join me on stream later tonight as we push this build even further to the end game pinnacle bosses, as we show how powerful this Elementalist Arc self-cast witch can truly be this patch. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Goodbye.